Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the paddock. Today, we're going to talk all things Nico Hülkenberg for another driver spotlight. On the call with you today is Melissa, Hannah, Casey, and myself, LeAnne. So I'm just going to let Melissa jump right into all things Nico.
Let's go. So Nicholas Hülkenberg, better known as Nico Hülkenberg, was born on August 19th, 1987. He will actually be celebrating his 36th birthday in just a few days. And it's kind of weird to me how I'm only 4 years younger than him. Age differences kind of just always weird me out sometimes. Anyways, he was born and raised in Emmerich am Rhein and North Rhine-Westphalia in West Germany. When looking into some information about his personal life and just about him in general, there really wasn't any. So this man really knows how to keep his personal life private. His father, Klaus Dieter, currently owns a shipping company in their hometown, all while his mother, Suzanne Hülkenberg, works as a freight forwarding agent at his father's business. Nico currently lives in Monaco with his wife, fashion designer, and I'm really sorry about this mispronunciation, Igel Rusti. Again, sorry. Together, they have a 2-year-old daughter. But fun fact about Nico, he is also multilingual. He is fluent in German, Dutch, French, and English. So now let's get into his karting days and learn more about F1's Hulk.
So Hülkenberg made his karting debut in 1997 at the age of 10. In 2001, he got first in the Italian Open Masters, also known as the ICA Junior. And the following year, he got first place again in 2002. He was a German junior karting champion, and the following year in 2003, he won the German kart championship as well. Also, in 2002, he was in the junior division. In 2003, he graduated to the senior division. Now into the single-seater realm.
So Formula BMW was Nico Hülkenberg's debut into single-seater racing, and he started off pretty strong, winning his rookie season and crushing all of the competition in the Rookie Cup, which is a competition between all of the rookie drivers in Formula BMW. And he drove for Joseph Kaufmann Racing and went on to win 8 out of the 20 races, had 14 podiums and 10 pole positions. Unfortunately, he was stripped of his win at the Formula BMW World Final due to claims that he brake tested his rivals during a safety car period. His main rival during this championship was former F1 driver and 4-time winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Sebastian Buemi, and he also raced against current F1 competitor Sergio Perez.
So now on to the A1 Grand Prix. So Hülkenberg joined the German A1 GP team for the 2006-2007 season. He obtained 9 wins total this year as a rookie and made him the most successful driver in the A1 GP history. It meant he was also single-handedly won Germany the championship with 128 points, which was 35 more points than the New Zealand team. Furthermore, as he switched over to the Formula 3 in 2007-2008, he ended up finishing 5th in the German F3 Championship, also known as the ATS F3 Cup, in 2006. But for the 2007 season, he switched to the F3 Euro Series with the ASM team. Lewis Hamilton was also on that team in the previous year. He ended up finishing his rookie season 3rd in the championship and has 4 wins, totaling 72 points for that year. His final year with F3, he won the non-championship Masters of Formula 3 race. After an impressive series, he took home the Formula 3 Euro Series Championship in 2008. He got 7 wins and a total of 85 points.
Nico continued on to the second level Formula 2 GP2 level of racing in the 2008-2009 GP2 Asia Series with Art Grand Prix, where he had some stellar performances, including taking pole his first race and also being the first night race winner for the series, but ultimately finished 6th. So it's just the beginning for Hülkenberg as he went on to race in the 2009 GP2 Series, also for Art Grand Prix, with teammate Pastor Maldonado. After a decent start to the season, Nico had an amazing weekend at his home race at Nürburgring, taking his first win of the season and a clean sweep by also winning the sprint race, taking pole position, and fastest lap for both races. He finished his rookie season winning the GP2 title with 2 races to spare, the first driver to win the championship without needing a final round. Having won the GP3 championship the year before as a rookie, Nico joined Lewis Hamilton and was followed by George Russell, Charles Leclerc, and Oscar Piastri in a group of drivers who have won consecutive GP3 F3 and GP2 F2 championships. Quite an impressive group there.
So, before we dive into him officially driving for Williams, let's talk about his first glimpse into F1, aka Williams. So, Hülkenberg first drove a Formula One car in a test for Williams in 2007. During the 2-day test, Hülkenberg had outpaced Williams' current driver, Kazuki Nakama, and had a lap time of 0.4 seconds slower than Nico Rosberg. Hülkenberg's performance at the test led to the Williams team signing him as a test driver, where he competed in several test sessions. His test contract with Williams had extended for 2009, despite in-season tests being banned for the remainder of the season. Hülkenberg would also act as the team's reserve driver in the event of the regular drivers being unable to compete. So, that's a little glimpse, and now on to him driving for Williams in 2010. So Hülkenberg's teammate for his first season would be experienced driver Rubens Barrichello. And Hülkenberg made his debut at the Bahrain Grand Prix. So in the third round in Malaysia, Hülkenberg made it to Q3 for the first time, qualifying in 5th place, where he outqualified teammate Barrichello for the first time. Hülkenberg was set to finish 11th in the race until Fernando Alonso blew his engine 3 laps from the end, thus promoting Hülkenberg to 10th place. And with the new point system in 2010, Hülkenberg, along with Jamie Alguersuari, sorry if I said that wrong, scored their first points in Formula One. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, he finished 6th, and that was a career best for him. He also picked up points in Italy, Singapore, and Korea. Towards the end of the season, there were reports that he could lose his seat at Williams to the GP2 Series Championship, Pastor Maldonado, due to the money Maldonado could bring to the team. Force India's Adrian Sutil was also linked to replace Hülkenberg at Williams. On November 6, Hülkenberg gained his first Formula One pole position by 1.049 seconds over Sebastian Vettel at the Brazilian Grand Prix in a rain-affected qualifying session. This was the Williams team's first pole position since the 2005 European Grand Prix after losing the lead on the opening lap. He eventually finished the race in 8th place, having been passed by drivers in more competitive cars. Quite sad. After the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, though, and the close of the season, team boss Frank Williams confirmed that Hülkenberg would not be driving for the team in 2011.
So on January 26, 2011, it was announced that Nico Hülkenberg would be Force India's reserve driver for the season. There was planned that Hülkenberg would be driving just in the Friday practice sessions. So Nico had drove the practice sessions for Force India in all the races except for Monaco, Hungary, the Korean, Indian, and Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. By December 26, 2011, it was announced that Nico would be promoted to a driver for Force India and would be driving with Paul de Vista for the 2012 season. He had earned his first points for Force India at the Malaysian Grand Prix. There, he started at 16th place and finished in 9th. At the Belgian Grand Prix, Nico had his best finish in Formula One, having finished in 4th that race. And at the last race of the season, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, Nico was starting from P5 after being moved up due to Pastor Maldonado receiving a 10th place grid penalty. Nico took the lead by lap 19, overtaking Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, and Jenson Button. However, around lap 55, Nico did collide with Lewis when the back of Nico's car slid out while going to the front of Lewis. This caused Lewis to DNF, and Nico got a drive-through penalty, causing the incident. All of this caused Nico to finish the race in P5, and there we see his possible first win just being slipped away that quick. In the 2012 season, Hülkenberg ended the season in P11, 17 points ahead of his teammate Paul de Resta.
Nico Hülkenberg wouldn't stay with Force India for the 2013 season, instead driving for Sauber. He got off to a pretty horrible start in Australia, being unable to even race due to a fuel system leak, but he managed to finish in the points for 10 out of the 19 races that season, with a best qualifying position of 3rd in the Italian Grand Prix and best finishing position of 4th at the Korean Grand Prix after some intense battles with Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Nico finished the season 10th in the World Drivers' Championship, which is a decent position for his time with Sauber, but it wouldn't be for very long.
So on December 3rd, 2013, it was announced that Nico Hülkenberg would be making his return as a driver for Force India for the 2014 season alongside Sergio Checo Perez. In the first 3 races of the 2014 season, Nico was able to finish amongst the top 5 of the grid. In this season, Nico was consistent with his point scoring, and he ended the season in 9th place with 96 points. This was Nico's best career finish in the championship. By October 2014, Force India confirmed Nico would continue driving with them for the 2015 season alongside Checo. After the Australian Grand Prix, Nico did not score any points until the Canadian Grand Prix that 2015 season. And in Hungary, during the race, he dealt with a big incident at turn 1 where his front wing detached and he drove over it. This caused him to get some air and then go into the barriers. He went from 4th place to not even finishing the race, obviously. Nico continued to struggle to get points in his very uncompetitive car, and he ended up finishing the 2015 season in 10th place with 58 points. He was 20 points behind his teammate Checo. Nico continued to drive for Force India into the 2016 season alongside Checo once again. It was the same story for Nico this season, where he continued to struggle to finish in the points. It was either Nico would have a great qualifying session, but then something would happen to him race day, or the podium and the points were so close, and again, they just slip away. His best finish of the season was at the Belgian Grand Prix, where Nico finished in 4th. In this race, he was initially in the 2nd place after the first lap was overtaken by Lewis Hamilton and Danny Ricciardo in their faster cars. Nico finished the 2016 season in 9th place with 72 points in the championship. And in that same year, in 2014, in November to be exact, so we're going to take a little detour to 2 years ago, where it was confirmed that Nico Hülkenberg would be competing in the 2015 24-hour Le Mans in a third factory-baked Porsche 919 hybrid. He also participated in the 2015 Spa around the Endurance World Championship as a way to prepare himself for Le Mans. There, on June 14, 2015, Nico, alongside Nick Tandy and Earl Bamber, both from New Zealand, won Le Mans. They raced a total of 365 laps, 1 lap ahead of their Porsche teammates Mark Webber, Brendan Hartley, and Timo Bernard. This win was also Porsche's first win since the 1998 24-hour Le Mans, and Nico's win made him the first active F1 driver to win Le Mans since Johnny Herbert and Bernard Hadcock in 1991.
And then on to Reynolds. So on October 14, 2016, Reynolds Sports announced that Hülkenberg had signed a multi-year agreement to race with the Reynolds Sport Formula One team. He got his first points for the team at the 3rd race of the season in Bahrain. I see a little bit of a trend there, with 9th place, followed by 8th in Russia. Hülkenberg then finished 6th place in Spain, Reynolds' best result in the sport since returning in 2016. Now, there was a pretty rough race between Hülkenberg and Magnussen, where Hülkenberg rudely confronted Magnussen while he was being interviewed by Danish TV in the media pen, labeling him nasty and the most unsporting driver of the whole grid. And Magnussen calmly responded with, I'm not going to say this out loud, but it basically is inappropriate. And Hülkenberg entered the summer break with 26 points and 10th in the championship. This confirmed Reynolds' position as 6th in the Constructors' Championship and moved Hülkenberg up to 43 points for the season, the same as Massa, but courtesy of more 6th place finishes, he ended the season 10th in the standings. He had out-qualified his teammates over the course of the season by 19-1 and outscored his teammate 43-14. And now on to the 2018 season. Hülkenberg remained at Renault alongside new driver Carlos Sainz, who was competing for his first full season with the Renault F1 team. Hülkenberg and Reynolds started the season well with 7th and 2 6th places in the first 3 races. Hülkenberg suffered a tough period of results, conceding with Reynolds' loss of competitiveness, but only scoring 1 point in the next 4 races. He bounced back with a 6th place finish at the US GP, with Sainz finishing in 7th. This was the best team result for Renault in the race since they rejoined the sport in 2016, beating the 7th and 8th place and the 2 drivers had achieved in Canada earlier in the year. This was followed by another strong race in Mexico with another 6th place. His season ended with 2 consecutive retirements, though, due to high engine temperatures in Brazil, and after being rolled over into the barriers by Romain Grosjean in Abu Dhabi. Nevertheless, he finished the season as the champion of the rest in 7th place with 69 points, 7 points ahead of Sergio Perez, as Renault also secured 4th place in the Constructor Championship. I will also note that this was the year that Romain Grosjean had crashed into the barrier and had a really significant crash. And prior to that, Nico had been kind of anti-Halo, but after seeing that crash, he went on publicly saying, like, dude, I see why the Halo really is there now, and I'm pro-Halo, and he became a very big advocate of that. So for the 2019 season, Hülkenberg was joined by Reynolds and multiple Grand Prix winner Daniel Ricciardo, who was signed from Red Bull previously. So going into it, Hülkenberg yet to score a podium in 158 races by the beginning of the 2019 season, said his future in the sport depends on the outcome of his duel and his ability to be measured against a Grand Prix winner. For the first time since his rookie season in 2010, when he had a teammate called Rubens Barrichello at Williams. Meanwhile, Reynolds' managing director, Cyril, and I'm sorry for this last name, I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but Abbott Bull, believe that the driver pairing was one of the strongest, if not the strongest, driver lineup on the grid. So Hülkenberg started the season strongly, out-qualifying new teammate Ricciardo at his home race, but an engine issue prevented him from racing Q3, leaving him in 11th. He had quite a rough year through with a mix of good qualifying races, but rough races with little to no points in the standings, leaving Renault doubting whether to keep him or not. Just before the Belgian GP, though, it was officially announced that Renault that Hülkenberg would be replaced by Mercedes reserve driver and former Force India driver Esteban Ocon for the 2020 season. Hülkenberg said the decision was not only about performance, alluding that the French Renault team desired a French driver, aka Ocon, and 4-time world champion Alain Prost actually said, as a non-executive driver for Renault Sports at the time, said that Renault offered Hülkenberg a new 1-year contract only, which gave him an option of another year to kind of prove himself. But the German driver actually refused the offer due to only wanting a either full 2-year contract or a multi-year contract going forward. So with that, and having failed to secure a driver's seat, or so we thought, for the 2020 season, he finished the season in 14th place, his lowest place in the sport since his debut season in 2010, having scored only 37 points across the season, 17 less than his teammate Daniel Ricciardo.
But he wouldn't be leaving Formula One entirely for the 2020 season. And kind of here begins the origin of Hülkenberg the Super Sub. Having no race seat or contract for the 2020 season, he was available as a substitute for the Racing Point F1 team. He would end up subbing for Sergio Perez, who actually he's been competing against since like 2005. These two have been driving together for forever. He would sub for him 2 times at the Silverstone circuit. For the first one, the British Grand Prix, he wouldn't get to start due to an engine failure, but at the second race, the 70th anniversary Grand Prix, he qualified an impressive third and managed to finish 7th, getting points. He would also sub for Lance Stroll at the Eiffel Grand Prix, making an impressive run from 20th up to 8th, earning himself driver of the day, even though he wasn't officially on the grid. He would officially sign with the team as a reserve and development driver after they changed their name to Aston Martin in 2021. He would also stay with the team for 2022, and he subbed for Sebastian Vettel at the Bahrain Grand Prix and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, finishing 17th and 12th respectively. He got into the Aston Martin one last time for the Pirelli test for the 2023 tires after the 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix.
In November 2022, it was announced that Nico Hülkenberg would be joining Haas, teaming up with Kevin Magnussen for the 2023 season. This was all while Nico was replacing fellow German driver Mick Schumacher. And I just want to say, I remember when this all went down and social media was just having a field day with Nico replacing Mick. And I felt bad because it was like neither driver were to blame for this decision and change. Like it happens beyond their control. And I just want to say that. So that's just always been my feelings about it. So in the first race of the season in Bahrain, Nico finished in P15 behind his teammate and had a 15-second penalty due to exceeding track limits. Fortunately for Nico, the penalty did not affect the outcome of his finish that day. And by the Australian Grand Prix, Nico was able to benefit from an incident that occurred during the race at lap 57. Nico was able to get close to the podium in P4, but due to the third flag of that race, it was ruled that the drivers will be restarting the race where they were originally before the incident. Haas did try to protest the decision after the race, but it was unsuccessful. Later on in the season at the Canadian Grand Prix, Nico was able to qualify in P2 in wets after, again, benefiting from a red flag incident. Currently, he has 9 points and is in 14th in the current Drivers' Championship. He is also ahead of his teammate Kevin, who has 2 points and is in 18th. So we'll have to see where each of them ends up at the season, especially now that we know, more so we don't know who will be driving in the Haas next year. So let's see.
You know, it's quite funny how Nico and Magnussen, like Nico and Kevin, had beef at one point, and now they are teammates. It's almost like coming full circle, and I wonder if the beef is still prevalent. What do y'all think?
I feel like it is low key, but they're probably just really like passive aggressive with each other just to keep the peace. But you know, they're damn well like mumbling something under their breath or something like that.
I don't know. They seem like they've really like mellowed out as they've gotten older, and plus like they're like both girl dads, so I feel like that's something to bond over. And they're like their kids are around the same age. And I don't know, they're just kind of in like that same place in life. So maybe they've overcome kind of the immature rivalry of their younger years.
I totally forgot that they were both girl dads, and so I wonder if they have a lot of common there. So to go back a few years to 2021, where Hülkenberg participated in IndyCar testing. It was a private testing center at Barber Motorsports Park, driving the number 7 Aero McLaren SP, also known as the AM SP car. After completing over 100 laps, he set a best time of 77.454 seconds, to be exact, in his first test, roughly a second off of the fastest time, which was set by 2021 Indy Lights runner-up David Malakas. But after being actually asked if he wanted to be an Indy driver, he actually declined the opportunity to pursue a career in Indy with McLaren, stating that he was unwilling to race on ovals and that he found the Dallara DW12, which was the car at the time, to be significantly harder to drive physically than the Formula One car he was used to. Although refusing to race Indy cars because of the oval tracks, Hülkenberg does actually have race experience on a superspeedway as part of his 2006 German Formula 3 Championship campaign for Joff Kampfmann Racing. He raced at the ADAC East Side 100 and oval race on the Eurospeedway Lussie, which I was always a little confused about because, I always find Indy so fascinating and how the crossover between Indy and Formula One is so close to each other because they talk about it all the time and the reserve drivers sometimes come from Indy. But I understand the fact that most people don't want to race on ovals because I do feel like it's significantly more dangerous. But I also do feel like a lot of F1 drivers want to be in Indy to experience the different types of speedways more as well. So interesting.
So now that we've gotten into his career in F1 and motorsport in general, we're all wondering, what does he do outside of F1? So fun fact, Nico actually has his own team in the East Quarter Championship named 27X by Nico Hülkenberg. He has also donated to the Alpine Stars and has been known to donate a pair of his racing boots to the Small Steps Foundation. I love a good charity work, and those two things that he does, especially the racing boots, is actually pretty cool.
And I guess one of the remaining questions for this year is, will Nico Hülkenberg stay at Haas? Technically, it has not been confirmed who the Haas drivers will be for 2024 season, even though at this point it's fairly likely it will remain the same. But Nico has stated that he plans to keep on racing. I mean, if Fernando's doing it at 42, Nico's a lot younger. He can keep going. And he just wants to keep racing in Formula One. And he plans to treat every race kind of as his final race, just in case. And he wants to make his resume look as good as he possibly can. To maybe potentially after, the 2024 silly season, which might get a little crazy, potentially he can nab a seat in one of the top teams as like a good, solid second driver. I mean, anything can happen. And he's kind of prepared for that.
Honestly, could you imagine Hülkenberg in a top seat? I mean, he's never had the opportunity to really do so. I mean, I know Lewis Hamilton is a shoo-in, but just imagine like Hülkenberg in a Mercedes car. He's never had the car, like a really, really good car to drive with. I mean, don't get me wrong, Reynolds done good, Force India's done good, Williams has done good, but they've never been dominant cars, dominant teams. So if, let's say, he was in a Mercedes, do you think he would do good, or do you think he'd be the same?
I don't think we'll ever really know. I think he's still chasing after that podium, and I think that would definitely help. I mean, let's just say Checo's seat is up in 2024, and he is friends with Max, so potentially, join Red Bull as like a solid, because they want like a solid second driver who's not gonna like fight with Max, and potentially he can finally, after like it feels like almost 20 years, get a podium, because that car is insane. But I mean, he's never driven a car that's just like that much better than everyone else, so I think it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I never thought about the Red Bull like teammate dynamic between him and Max because, like you said, I feel like Nico has mellowed out a lot since before he was a little temperamental. And so I feel like Max's temper would be eased by Nico because Nico can kind of advise him as like I don't want to say elder driver because he's not old, but an experienced driver. And I could just imagine what that team would be like. And I feel like if he got a podium once, like first place, second place, and got to experience that feeling, he would be a little bit more comfortable retiring than always kind of just almost getting there, but never fully succeeding. Because he has good qualifyings, but then when it comes to the consistency of keeping pace over a whole race period, that I think he struggles with. And I don't know if it's necessarily him or if it's the car, but I do wonder what that looks like.
So if Nico does, I guess, join a top team, like how long do you think he would stay in the top team? Like as soon as he gets like that like podium, or like if he has like a race win potentially, because if it's a good car, I mean, potentially you could win. Would he be like, okay, I've done enough, time to spend time with my family? Or would he be like finally get that taste of winning or like doing well and just never stop, just keep going forever?
Well, we know if he joins Red Bull, he's going to be like axed in like 2 days if he's not performing well. So there's that. But no, I think it'd be cool to see how he would perform like in other top teams. And if he, like Casey had mentioned, if he gets that taste of like a victory, like, is he going to have that crave to just keep on going? Or he's going to be like, okay, I got my one. I'm like good to go. Bye. So I don't know. It'd be cool to see. And I'm always just like curious if that change from like a not so well performing car to a top performing car, if like that can affect even like your driving ability to a point where it's just like you're not doing that great, or you're okay, or you expected better, you were expected to perform better and it's not coming.
I could see him if he's with like a good significant team that's getting him points and podiums. I could see him sticking around for maybe 2 years. I don't see him signing a 1-year contract unless it's with the top team and they kind of force him to. Because it kind of seems like he really wants that multi-year contract, or at least a 2-year contract that he probably feels like he deserves. But since it's his first year at Haas, I feel like it would be weird if he moved so soon. So like I could see him staying another year, as much as I feel like a top team would benefit him both ways. And then another thing to think about is who would be a good teammate for him, like a dream teammate scenario. Would we probably keep like a little bit more experienced driver like Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, who, have been racing with him for years, or like a new up and coming younger driver like Mick Schumacher, or Foreman German, or like a Max Verstappen. I mean, I feel like there's so many possibilities.
I was actually just gonna say Mick Schumacher, just make like the German dream team, because I think like someone his own age, there might be like some tensions, because like they're the same age, they've had the same life experience, but if it's like a younger guy, he can kind of like mentor them and spread the wisdom along, I guess, but allow him to kind of like be the main driver. Because if there's not like a 1 or 2 scenario, I feel like that can cause tensions to rise potentially. But if it's a very clear, okay, here's the number 1, here's number 2, then I guess that makes things a little easier. But I think any of like the younger drivers, so Mick, or I think even like Yuki, I think would be fun. It'd just be like a really out there pairing, but I feel like their personalities would go well together in a weird way, but I think that would just be a fun pairing to have.
So I too was thinking Mick when Hannah brought up that question. I was just like, it'd be cool to see, 2 Germans together and possibly in the perfect world driving for Audi. How cool would that be, having the 2 F1 German drivers driving for the actual German team? I mean, Mercedes, yeah, they're German, but they're based in the UK, so it's like a little bit different. But Audi will be in Germany, as far as I know. So I think that'd be cool. But definitely probably someone younger, just so he can be like that mentor to that younger driver. I was thinking probably like someone like Logan, just so like he can have like, again, that guidance as mentioned before. And I was just like, maybe for fun, Danny Rick again, just because I felt like that pairing was like so chaotic and not at the same time. And you just know the social media people, or like the marketing, the PR people will be having a field day just having that content, and Danny just constantly saying his last name as wild as possible. Something fun to watch.
Now that you say that, Logan probably needs a Nico in his life. And I don't think Nico has ever had the opportunity to really mentor a driver, or even like morph a driver to like how Formula One works and what to expect throughout the career. And as someone who has a kid, and as someone who really does like kids, because he's been very known to like kids, he probably would like take them under his wing and be like, let's go, I got you.
Especially since like Logan is kind of like a little duckling when it comes to Alex. He just kind of follows him around and like kind of watches him to learn. So I think like it would also work well for Logan too, because that's already what he kind of does. And I think he would probably, enjoy being mother hen a little bit to kind of help him acclimate more to the crazy lifestyle of F1.
Since Logan had to kind of uproot his life from Florida to kind of like move overseas to pursue his dream, while he's got a family and whatnot, he probably needs that dad in like motorsports. And while I know that they're closer in age, I mean, it still like you still have that dad, like that mentor, that person who kind of helps you get through the sport and experience and everything. So I think Logan needs a dad. Nico, let's go.
I mean, he's already a real dad. The next step is obviously like grid dad.
Listen, we all have that work bestie that's like either years older than us or years younger than us. And it's that most like wholesome relationship. And we need that ASAP between Nico and Logan now. I don't know who we need to talk to, but let's make it happen.
Don't worry, I'm making this phone call after we get off the call. Don't know who, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, get Gina on the phone. It's the Haas way.
And with that phone call in the works to Jean from Gunter, let's go ahead and move into our pre-outro. We're going to have a driver quote, and this is something from Nico Hülkenberg directly, where he says, "I believe in hard work and good decisions, and the rest of it will come or it doesn't." He really does breathe and remind yourself of this quote multiple times throughout his career, as it's something he's kind of had to struggle with Formula One, as he's kind of like jumped from team to team to team. And he kind of always reminds you that things happen, good decisions come, and the rest of it kind of will figure itself out.
That wraps up another driver spotlight. Don't worry, we are making our way through the grid this season. Who's been your favorite so far, and who do you look forward to hear about? Let us know on our socials. Everywhere we are at Paddock Girls Podcast, except Twitter. There you can find us at Paddock Girls Pod. And also, don't forget to share, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We even post our episodes on YouTube. The countdown to Lights Out continues. 16 days to go, and then we can finally hear those engines again. Thank you so much for joining us in the paddock. See you next time. Bye, Craig.
See you later, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.